How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. I hope you're having a great week playing a ton of video games. We have a packed 3-topic news video to jump right into, starting out with the very first Black Friday deal of 2025 on PlayStation 5s. And if the rest of them are this good, it's looking like we're going to have some pretty good deals coming up over the next month. After that, we're going to talk about the brand new PS5 update. And finally, the price estimates are out on the PS6 and next-gen Xbox, and they're a lot different than I think a lot of people were expecting, and I think it's sitting pretty good for the PlayStation 6. Before I jump into the video, as always, it would really help me out if you subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to all. But with that out of the way, let's get into the first topic here, because Black Friday, it doesn't hit the same as it used to. I don't know how young or old any of you guys are out there, but when I was in like middle and high school, it was kind of like an event. Like my mom and I, after everything was cleaned up on Thanksgiving, we would go out on Black Friday or like Thanksgiving night and hit the stores as soon as they opened and buy everyone's Christmas gifts. And I can't believe we did that because my mom is like 5 feet tall and she's like this sweet, nice lady. And it's like crazy on Black Friday, right? Like you see all these memes, and the movie Thanksgiving kind of leaned into it. But then as time went on and online shopping became sort of the default, and you have things like Amazon Prime, everything kind of switched to online. And Black Friday has extended over the entire month of the end of November to Christmas. So like a whole month of deals popping up online that aren't as hard to get, and the doorbusters aren't as crazy, and it's all just garbage now. So it hasn't really hit the same, but you can score some good deals on consoles around Black Friday. There's great trade-in deals at places like GameStop. Of course, there's discounts at places like Costco, which is the first deal of 2025. So this one starts on November 21st, and what you're going to be able to get is a disk drive enabled PlayStation 5 Slim with 1 terabyte of storage. They have not started selling the reduced storage PS5 Slim over here in the United States just yet, which is good. And you get some Fortnite V-Bucks and an extra code along with it. $450 is a good price, especially considering that they raised the price by $50. So I think you're kind of saving like $100 at this point. But if you want to think back to what the PS5 launched at, the disk drive enabled model started at $500. So it's a $50 discount on top of that. The Fortnite bonus, I mean, if you play Fortnite, that's obviously a good bonus to have on top of the PS5. But like, I'd prefer a game, maybe Ghost of Yotei, maybe Death Stranding 2, so move some more units of that, maybe even a double pack of Death Stranding and Death Stranding 2. I also like these bundles they've been doing with PlayStation Plus because, PS Plus Premium comes along with the essential games, the extra library, and the PS5 Classic. So if you're just jumping in to the brand new generation, it actually does help you quite a bit to have an extra subscription to PS Plus. And it does kind of technically take money off the top in addition to that $50 savings because you have to pay for it anyway. So if you can like kind of supplant that for 3 months by getting it included for free with your console, that would go a long way. So what I would do is, if you're in the market for a PlayStation 5, I would give it a little bit more time. I mean, this doesn't start until November 21st anyway, but you could give it more time, kind of track some deals. You could follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, because I'll tell you about all the deals coming up. I think you could do a little bit better. I know some people kind of bristle at the idea of buying refurbished consoles, but I still think that might be the best way to go. If you're still on the PlayStation 4 and you're really feeling the urge to jump to PlayStation 5 before GTA 6 and to maybe play some of the big games that came out this year, like Dying Light the Beast, Expedition 33, Mafia the Old Country, Death Stranding 2, Ghost of Yotei, like we did get a pretty big stockpile of next-gen only games this year that could take advantage of the PlayStation 5. I really don't think there's a big downside to going refurbished because you still get that 1-year warranty on top of, the cost of the console. So if you get one that you play for a while and then it faces some hardware issues and then you have to replace it, if you get it through Sony's refurbished program, you're not going to have to worry about, having to pay an arm and a leg to get it repaired. Also, if you're into performance like I am, we could finally start to see some discounts on the PlayStation 5 Pro. I know it has a bad reputation, mainly because of Unreal Engine 5 games shipping with, broken performance modes where they take the quality mode from the regular PS5 release and make that the only option on the PS5 game. But I still think in the overall grand scheme of the PS5 library, the benefits you get in the vast majority of games shouldn't ruin the outlook on the console because of the performance performance of a few outliers. Like in the perfect world, for how much the PS5 Pro costs, every game would be running and looking better on it and just running absolutely pristine and perfect. But I don't know, developers seem to be stuck on the idea of not optimizing their games, especially if they use Unreal Engine 5. So knowing that, I want to recommend the PS5 Pro. I just have to be hesitant about it. It's something where, you know, if you really care about performance, like if you want the extra overhead just in case, I would go with the regular PS5 and get one of these Black Friday deals. But if you're someone who plays on PC, you're used to getting 60 FPS, you're wanting a big upgrade from the PS4 where you're playing at less than 30 FPS most of the time, I hesitantly recommend it, right? Like I think you know if you're the correct person to pick up a PS5 Pro. So yeah, this is through Costco. It's starting November 21st, but all the retailers generally follow the same sale. So what you can expect is $50 off for a bundle with some Fortnite V-Bucks. So I would guess that it would bring the PS5 Slim Digital Edition down to like $400 where it was when the console launched. And at that price, I think it's pretty fair. I wish we could get a little bit cheaper, but it just doesn't look like that's going to happen. So yeah, let me know if you're in the market for a PS5 or you're waiting for the PS6. I'd just love to know the temperature check of where everyone is at. But let's move on to the next news story here because it's time to update your PlayStation 5. So the last few updates have been those classic security and performance improvement updates that they only release whenever there's kind of like a big advancement on the jailbreaking of the PlayStation 5, and then they figure out how to patch it. They force out an update. You have to update your console and nothing really changes. And then a few days later, we find out they dramatically changed the low power mode or something like that. But for this one, they've added in a few bullet points to let us know what exactly they're changing with the console. One of the things they've updated is the DualSense Edge. I don't understand why you need to upgrade the entire firmware of the PlayStation 5 console to then upgrade the DualSense Edge. I hope it improves the battery life because if I'm being real, it feels like the battery life has somehow gotten worse. I use this controller on my main PC, which runs SteamOS, and I use it on the PS5 Pro. I basically just have to plug it in all the time and use it as a wired controller. I've got a power strip with a really long cable. I plug it into the wall, I move it right next to my couch, and I'm always plugged in with my DualSense. And I've also noticed that for some reason there's more latency when you're using it wirelessly. I don't understand what that is, so I hope this new update for the DualSense Edge fixes that issue. I'm still really bummed that this DualSense V3 that had a replaceable battery didn't materialize. I don't know how that leaked because it came from a pretty reliable source in Kepler, but if they're making that, they're still holding it back, and that's kind of a bummer. The only thing I could see is that shipping with the PlayStation 6, but yeah, you have to update your DualSense right now if you have an Edge. Hopefully it improves the battery life and the connection issues that I've noticed a few other people experiencing over the past few months. Giving you the ability to see the serial number of your console from within the operating system. I don't know why they would do this other than making repairs or RMAs easier. Like when I've had to send in my Steam Deck because I accidentally dropped it and broke the right bumper, I had to get the serial number, and it's like so tiny on the back that you can barely read it. But if you go into the settings on SteamOS, you can get the serial number right there. As far as I know, every device out there has the serial number hidden within the operating system somewhere in some menu, like in system settings about, but I guess the PS5 didn't have that, so they've added in the ability to see that with this software update. And then finally, they've improved the performance of messaging on the PlayStation 5 console. I think Sony needs to lean into the chat features. I know they kind of gave up a little bit by including Discord on the PS5 through the actual software updates that they've implemented over the past few years, but I'm always impressed with how well the chat functionality works on the PlayStation app, so it is good to see them going back and updating it. But as far as major features go, I mean, the DualSense update I think is the marquee update with this one. It doesn't really matter because regardless, if you want to connect to the PlayStation Network and be able to use the online services on your PlayStation 5, you're going to have to update it anyway. So yeah, if you're interested in jailbreaking your PS5, I wouldn't update, but if you want to keep using your PS5 as you've been using it, it probably updated in the background, so now you know what exactly it did. And finally, that brings us to the last news story here, which is about the PS6 and next-gen Xbox. So we kind of knew for the past couple of weeks or so that going into the next generation, there's going to be a massive gulf in both performance and cost when it comes to the PlayStation 6 and next gen Xbox. Part of the reason for that is that PlayStation works with dedicated AMD engineers. Like PlayStation has its own engineers. They work with AMD. They make custom chips that are essentially only made to get good gaming performance. Whereas Microsoft kind of goes through AMD, looks at the chips that they're producing, finds one that kind of meets the hardware and software output metrics that they're looking for, buys the rights to that chip, and then puts it in the PC. So like if you wanted to get the same chip that was running the Xbox Series X, they actually sold that as a PC APU that you could buy in China, but you can't do that with the PlayStation 5's chip because it's literally made to run games. So like Xbox this next generation, knowing that they're abandoning the whole console ecosystem as a whole, they're going to go for a desktop PC with the super powerful APU. I'm sure you'll be able to upgrade and equip it with either an eGPU or a dedicated GPU. It's going to be a high performer, like with a significant boost over what we see on the PlayStation 6, and that's going to result in a bigger cost. So Kepler, who's pretty ironclad when it comes to leaking this stuff and being right, DualSense V3 aside, is reporting that the next generation Xbox is going to come in at a whopping $1,200. So if you think that ROG Ally is expensive at $1,000, get ready to pay $200 more for the next gen Xbox. And it kind of makes sense because they're going to work with other manufacturers like Asus, Lenovo, and everyone else like they already currently are. They're going to let you use that chip if you're a third-party manufacturer to get that Xbox branding. I would guess, like we don't know that, but I'm assuming they're developing this chip and then they're going to license it out to other manufacturers to get that Xbox branding. So there are probably going to be cheaper options, and then it's going to behave like the Surface line where, you know, you can get cheaper Windows laptops from Asus, from MSI, and everyone else. But if you want the cream of the crop, best Windows experience possible, you can buy a Surface laptop for over $1,000 and get a very MacBook-like experience. So that looks like the niche they're going to be trying to fill with the Xbox next generation console. So what does that mean for the PlayStation 6? We do know that Sony is just continuing forward with how consoles have always worked for them. So it's going to be a dedicated gaming device, but we've also heard that because they're working on a handheld simultaneously, they're not going for the max power chip, because if you look at the PS4, PS5, even the PS3, the PS3 was more powerful than the Xbox 360, but it was really hard to interface with, so games never really ended up looking or running all that much better on the PS3. And even though the PS4 was pretty much on par with the Xbox One, the games looked the same, and even though the PS5 is less powerful than the Series X, you see a lot of games that look and run better on the PlayStation 5 than the Xbox Series X. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially when you consider the price that they're targeting is $600. Now, when you look at the way things shook out this generation, starting at $600 doesn't mean it's going to stay at $600. Like they could go for an aggressive launch price of $600 and then slowly raise it over time like they did this generation. But I'm hoping by the time all this rolls around, by the end of 2027, if the rumors are to be believed, whatever supply chain issues that are impacting the world right now, the tariffs, everything that's causing these chip prices to skyrocket through the roof, in addition to the huge demand for chips for all these AI data centers, I hope that sort of calms down just a little bit and they're able to get back on track with, you know, launching at $600 and then dramatically dropping the price a few years into the generation. They're obviously kind of building up a wall in case they aren't able to do that, where they're going to keep the PS5 around a lot longer than a lot of people would assume. They're going to keep the PS4 around, it seems like, as well. And then you're going to have the PS6 as the cream of the crop device. So if you want to get the best performance, you're going to have to shell out a little bit more money for it. But I mean, like, they're kind of creating a situation by keeping the PS5 price so high where you'd kind of be dumb if you're on a PS4 to not buy the PlayStation 6 instead of the PS5, because it's going to start at like $50 more. We also know that it is going to have a disk drive model. I hope it's not the same as it was this gen, where you have a digital model and a disk drive model. The disk drive doesn't cost that much. They should just bake it in. And we do know that they're going for a more standardized console design. It's not going to be this weird weird futuristic obelisk like we have with the PlayStation 5. So knowing that, I feel like they should just hard bake in the disk drive and not split the ecosystem like they did this generation. But it is good to know that they are still going to support physical gamers like me for at least another generation. I think the price is fine. Like I don't think we're ever going to get back to that $400 range. I would like it to stay at $500, but just with like the inflation of the past few years, the tariffs, the AI chip demands, the shortages on components, I feel like $600 for the mainline console, if it does prove to have much better performance than what we're currently seeing than the PS5 Pro 2, yeah, I think that's a pretty fair price point. And, you know, for people who are on the PS4, I think you're in that sort of no-brainer territory where they're going to be like, I got a good use out of my $400 PS4. I'm ready to upgrade. And at that price, it kind of stings, but it's not really going to make or break, you know, your decision to pick it up or not. Anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.